My name is Heather Collins and I am 28 years old. I built my tech company HealthNet Bio from a tiny dorm room at the University of Washington, while everyone, especially my family, told me to stick to something safe, something realistic. Today, at my graduation with my family sitting in the crowd, my mom sent a text that cut deeper than any rejection I'd ever faced. But what came next? It turned everything upside down in a way no one could have predicted. 4 years of pushing through endless sleepless nights, and my own mother's constant doubt led to this one moment when my phone buzzed twice, minutes apart. The first was her text, cold and brutal. "You're screwed. No one's coming to save you." It stung, made my hands shake as I stood among my classmates. Then my CFO called her voice electric. "Heather, HealthNet Bio just hit the big time." The entire crowd froze, heads turning, whispers stopping dead. My mom's face. Absolute shock, like she'd seen a ghost. Regret was written all over it. Guess who's standing tall now? If you're watching this, drop a comment with where you're tuning in from. Hit that like button and subscribe to follow this insane journey of proving them wrong with a success story that'll blow your mind. Growing up as the only daughter in the Collins household in Chicago meant I was always in the shadow of my older brother, Joshua Collins. My mother, Susan Collins, had built her grocery chain from a single corner store in the 1980s into a regional powerhouse. She was a self-made woman, sharp and driven, but her vision for the family business was clear: it was for men. My father, David Collins, ran operations for her, nodding along to her decisions, rarely speaking up. From as early as I can remember, my mother groomed Joshua to take over, bringing him to her office on weekends, teaching him how to negotiate supplier contracts and manage store budgets. When I was 9, I begged to tag along to the office. "It's not for you, Heather," my mother said, barely looking up from her desk. "Why don't you help with the dishes at home?" I stood there clutching my math homework, feeling small. My father just shrugged and said, "Listen to your mom." Meanwhile, Joshua got to sit in on meetings, learning the ropes, while I was sent to fold napkins. My mother loved me, I think, but she had this fixed idea that business was a man's world and I was meant to stay out of it. I was good at math, always had been. In 4th grade, I won a citywide math competition, outscoring kids 2 years older. My mother came to the award ceremony, clapped politely, but later said, "That's cute, Heather, but numbers won't get you far in the real world." My father didn't even comment. Joshua got a new bike for his straight A report card that year. I got a pat on the head and a used graphing calculator my mother found at a garage sale. "For your little math games," she called it. By middle school, I'd discovered coding through free online tutorials. I'd sneak onto the family computer after everyone was asleep, teaching myself Python by moonlight. When I was 14, I built a simple inventory app for my school's library to track books. The librarian loved it so much she got the principal to implement it school-wide. A local paper ran a small piece about it, my first taste of recognition. I showed it to my mother, hoping for a spark of pride. She skimmed the article and said, "Computers are a hobby, Heather. Real business is about people, not screens." Joshua smirked from across the dinner table. "Yeah, stick to your little programs," he said. My father stayed silent as usual. That moment stuck with me. I wasn't just overlooked. I was dismissed like my interests were a phase I'd outgrow. But I didn't outgrow them. I got better. By high school, I was coding websites for local nonprofits, earning a bit of pocket money. My mother noticed the checks but never asked how I earned them. "Don't get distracted from your studies," she'd say. Joshua, meanwhile, got a car for his 16th birthday, a shiny reward for future leadership. "I got a second-hand laptop, practical for school," my mother said. That laptop became my lifeline. I used it to build the first version of what would later become HealthNet Bio, a platform for AI-driven medical diagnostics. When it was time to apply for college, I knew I wanted to study computer science, but I didn't tell my parents. My mother had already mapped out my future, maybe a teaching degree, something suitable. My father didn't disagree. Joshua was at Illinois State majoring in business to prepare for Mom's company. I went to my guidance counselor instead, a kind woman who saw what my family couldn't. She helped me apply to the University of Washington, one of the best schools for tech on the West Coast. I didn't breathe a word to my parents until the acceptance letter arrived. At dinner that night, I slid the letter across the table. I got into the University of Washington. I said, heart pounding. My mother's fork froze mid-air. Washington. For what she asked, her tone sharp. Computer science, I said. She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. Tech is a boys' club, Heather. You'll struggle and drop out. Why not something practical like accounting? My father looked at his plate, avoiding my eyes. Joshua leaned back, arms crossed. You're wasting your time, he said. I gripped the letter under the table, my resolve hardening. My mother agreed to pay for my first year, but only with conditions. I had to keep a 4.0 GPA, work part-time to cover extras, and call weekly to prove I wasn't failing. 1 year, she said, then we'll see if this tech nonsense is worth it. My father nodded along. Joshua just rolled his eyes. The night before I left for Seattle, I packed my bags, that old laptop tucked carefully inside. I wasn't just leaving Chicago. I was leaving behind their doubts, their rules about what I could be. I made a promise to myself I'd build something so big even my mother couldn't ignore it. I had no idea then how that promise would shape everything to come. When I stepped off the plane in Seattle, that second-hand laptop from my mother was the only thing I trusted. The University of Washington was a world away from Chicago, and I was ready to prove I belonged in tech no matter what my family thought. My mother's words from that last dinner, tech is a boys' club. Heather rang in my ears as I moved into my dorm. I wasn't here to play it safe. I was here to build something. The first week was overwhelming. Orientation threw me into a sea of brilliant students, coders from all over, and for once nobody cared that I was a girl in a tech program. The only question was whether I could keep up. My course load was brutal computer science, data algorithms, plus a business elective to understand startups. To meet my mother's conditions, I took a part-time job at the campus coffee shop, pulling 20 hours a week while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. My roommate, Nicole Hayes, barely saw me awake. I'd drag myself in from shifts at 10 p.m. code until 2 a.m. and be up by 6 for class. You're gonna crash, Heather Nicole warned one night, finding me slumped over my desk. I can't afford to, I said, rubbing my eyes. My mom's only paying for 1 year. After that, I'm on my own unless I get scholarships. My mother called every Sunday like clockwork. How are your grades? She'd ask, her tone sharp like she expected me to fail. All A's, I'd reply, keeping it short. And the job? Not slacking, are you? I'd grit my teeth. Still employed, Mom. I never mentioned my coding projects or my dreams for HealthNet Bio. I knew she'd call it a fantasy, just like she always had. My father rarely joined these calls, and Joshua was too busy at Illinois State to care. Those conversations left me feeling like I was still that kid begging to join them at the office. Then I met Dr. Mary Gonzalez, my algorithms professor. She was tough, brilliant, and saw something in me I hadn't fully recognized myself. After I aced a machine learning project in her class, she called me over. Collins, your approach to diagnostic algorithms, have you thought about healthcare applications? I hadn't too buried in assignments and shifts to think big. Hospitals would pay top dollar for AI that catches diseases early, she said. Come to my office hours. Let's dig into this. That conversation lit a spark. For the first time, I saw a path beyond just surviving college. Dr. Gonzalez introduced me to 2 students who'd become my core team. Eric Singh was a coding genius with a knack for neural networks. Angela Wu knew how to make complex tech feel simple through user-friendly design. We started meeting in my dorm on weekends, sketching out HealthNet Bio, a platform using AI to diagnose diseases faster and more accurately than humans. Most diagnostic tools are clunky or inaccurate, I told them. We can make something doctors actually trust. They were in. We spent hours coding prototypes, testing ideas fueled by cheap coffee and big dreams. My mother's weekly calls kept coming, each one a reminder of her doubt. Are you still chasing that computer stuff? She asked one night. Focus on your grades, Heather. You don't want to end up with nothing. I bit back my frustration. I'm handling it, Mom, I said, not mentioning the prototype we'd just finished. I wasn't ready to share HealthNet Bio with her, she'd only tear it down. By spring of my freshman year, we had a working demo. Dr. Gonzalez pushed us to enter a university hackathon focused on healthcare tech with a $50,000 prize for the winner. We're not polished enough, I argued, nervous about presenting to real industry judges. You're ready enough, she shot back. They need to see what you've got. The night before the hackathon, I couldn't sleep, replaying my mother's voice. You'll struggle and drop out. I pushed it away, focusing on our pitch. We had to nail this. The hackathon was intense, hundreds of students, VCs in the crowd, and us, a team of 3 freshmen with a bold idea. We presented HealthNet Bio, showing how our AI could catch early signs of diseases like cancer from routine scans, all with a clean interface doctors could use in minutes. The judges grilled us on scalability, but Eric's tech breakdown and Angela's demo sealed it. When they called our name for first place, I nearly dropped my laptop. $50,000 in seed money was ours. I called my father that night, avoiding my mother. We won a competition for a business idea, I said, testing the waters. That's great, Heather, he said, sounding distracted. Just don't let it mess with your studies. I hung up, disappointed, but not surprised. My mother didn't even ask about it when I mentioned the win the next Sunday. Focus on what matters, she said. I gripped my phone, vowing to make HealthNet Bio something she couldn't ignore. After the hackathon win, that $50,000 check felt like a lifeline, but it came with pressure. HealthNet Bio wasn't just a dorm room project anymore. It was real, and I had to deliver. I cut my course load to part-time, pouring every spare hour into the company. Eric, Angela, and I worked late nights in a rented co-working space, refining our AI to diagnose diseases faster. But the bigger we got, the more resistance I faced, both from the world and my own family. Pitching HealthNet Bio to investors was brutal. We hit every venture capital firm in Seattle, presenting our demo to stone-faced suits who barely looked up from their phones. Your tech's interesting, but a female CEO. So young, one VC said, leaning back. Come back with a seasoned leader. Another suggested I step aside for a more experienced male co-founder. After our 10th rejection, Eric slammed his laptop shut. They don't trust us because we're kids, he said. I nodded, exhausted. And because I'm a woman. Those rejections stung, but what hurt worse was my brother's betrayal. I found out Joshua had been talking behind my back, telling his business school buddies that my company was just a school project and a waste of time. One of his friends, a VC intern, even mentioned it during a pitch. Heard your startup's a hobby? He smirked. I froze, realizing Joshua was actively trying to sabotage me. When I confronted him over the phone, he didn't deny it. You're out of your league, Heather, he said. Mom agrees. Stick to something realistic. My mother's voice echoed in my head. Tech is a boys' club. I hung up, feeling gutted but more determined than ever. Then came our first real crisis. One of our early clients, a small clinic, had a data breach. Patient records were exposed, not because our AI failed, but because they ignored our setup instructions. They still pointed the finger at HealthNet Bio, threatening to sue. We can't afford this, Angela said during an emergency meeting. Our bank account's barely covering rent. I hadn't slept in 2 days, working with Eric to patch the client's system while defending our reputation. We need a lawyer, I said, and money to pay one. That meant more pitches, more rejections, with Joshua's rumors making it harder. For 2 weeks, I pitched non-stop to VCs, dragging our prototype across town. My voice hoarse from repeating the same slides. Every no felt like a step closer to failure. One rainy afternoon, I sat in a coffee shop staring at my phone, tempted to call my mother for advice. Instead, I texted Nicole. I'm drowning, I admitted. Maybe Joshua's right. She replied instantly, don't let him win. You're tougher than this. Her words pushed me to keep going. Then I met Pamela Reed, a VC from Cascade Ventures, one of the few women-led firms in Seattle. I walked into her office, sleep-deprived, expecting another dismissal. Pamela listened to my pitch, asked sharp questions about our AI's accuracy, and leaned forward. "You're fighting an uphill battle, Heather," she said. "I was you 20 years ago, underestimated, overlooked. I'm investing $500,000 for 10% of HealthNet Bio, and I'm connecting you with a top tech lawyer." I almost broke down right there. "But you owe me one thing," she added. "When you make it, lift up the next woman with a big idea." I nodded, promising with everything I had. Pamela's investment saved us. With her lawyer's help, we settled the client dispute for a fraction of their demands, proving the breach wasn't our fault. The experience forced us to tighten our onboarding process, documenting every step. We used the $500,000 to rent a small office in Pioneer Square and hire our first employees. I brought on Karen Mitchell as CFO, a veteran who'd scaled health tech startups before. At 50, she was calm where I was frantic. "You've got a gem here," she told me, reviewing our numbers. "But you're burning cash too fast. Let me build you a real financial plan." With Karen's guidance, we landed our first big contract, a chain of clinics paying $10,000 a month for our AI diagnostics. I took Eric and Angela out for burgers to celebrate, but I didn't call my mother. I wasn't ready for her to dismiss this too. Revenue started trickling in enough to hire 2 more coders and move to a bigger space. But my mother's Sunday calls didn't stop. "Are you still keeping up with school?" she asked one night, her voice dripping with doubt. "Or is this computer thing taking over?" I clenched my jaw. "I'm managing, Mom," I said, not mentioning the contract or the new office. She sighed. "Don't throw away your degree, Heather. You'll need something to fall back on when this fails." I ended the call, my hands shaking. She didn't know we'd just signed our 5th client or that Joshua's rumors hadn't stopped us. I wasn't just building a company anymore. I was building a future she couldn't touch. By my 4th year at the University of Washington, HealthNet Bio was no longer a scrappy startup. We'd outgrown our Pioneer Square office, and our AI diagnostics were catching attention. Eric and Angela led a breakthrough, tweaking our algorithm to spot diseases like diabetes in seconds with unmatched accuracy. Clinics loved it. Our user-friendly interface made their jobs easier. That spring, we landed our first Fortune 500 client, a national hospital chain, paying a 7-figure contract. I could barely believe it. We were prepping for an IPO, working late with bankers and lawyers to file with the SEC. The timing was wild. Our confidential filing would wrap just as I was set to graduate with honors in my 5th year. Graduation loomed, and I was juggling final exams, investor meetings, and my mother's relentless doubt. She hadn't let up, still calling every Sunday. "You're not dropping out, are you?" she asked, once her voice sharp. "I'm graduating, Mom," I said, exhausted. "With honors." "With." She paused, then muttered, "Well, don't get cocky. You still need a fallback." I didn't tell her about the hospital deal or the IPO. She wouldn't believe me anyway, and Joshua's rumors about my hobby had already done enough damage. The morning of graduation dawned crisp and clear. I woke at 5 a.m. too wired to sleep in my small Seattle apartment I barely saw anymore. My family was flying in, my mother, my father, Joshua, and I'd booked them at a fancy downtown hotel, a quiet flex of how far I'd come. My phone was silent, no word from Karen yet on the IPO pricing. The bankers were finalizing numbers that morning. I pulled on a simple navy dress under my cap and gown, the tassels swinging as I checked my phone one last time. Nothing. I headed to campus, nerves buzzing, trying to focus on the ceremony, not the billion-dollar question hanging over me. My family sat in Section B, my mother in a sleek blazer, my father quiet beside her. Joshua slouched with a smirk. I avoided their eyes as I joined the engineering graduates, adjusting my cap, my phone on vibrate, in a pocket I'd sewn into my dress. The procession started at 9:45, and we filed into the auditorium, laughter and selfies all around me. I stood alone, my mind split between the stage and the IPO. At 9:50, my phone buzzed. Karen. I stepped out of line, heart pounding, and checked the text. Pricing confirmed at $45 per share. $1 billion valuation. Press release in 10 minutes. You did it, Heather. $1 billion. My knees nearly buckled. HealthNet Bio was a unicorn, a dream so few startups hit. I rejoined the line dazed as the ceremony began with speeches about achievement. I barely heard them, my head spinning with what this meant. At 10:05, another buzz. My mother. I opened it expecting congratulations. Instead, you're screwed. No one's coming to save you. The words hit like a slap, my hands trembling as I stared at the screen. On the day I graduated with honors leading a billion-dollar company, she still saw me as a failure. I blinked back, tears refusing to break. Not here. Then Karen called. I answered quietly, turning from the crowd. Heather, it's official, she said, voice electric. HealthNet Bio just hit the big time. We're at 1 billion and climbing. I couldn't help it. My voice rose. 1 billion. It's real. Heads turned, graduates whispering. The auditorium went quiet, eyes on me. I glanced at Section B. My mother's face was frozen pale, like she'd seen a ghost. Joshua's smirk was gone. The press release had just gone. Live news alerts were probably lighting up their phones. They called my name soon after. Heather Lynn Collins, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science with honors. I walked across the stage, legs unsteady, shaking the dean's hand. The photographer caught my forced smile, but inside I was reeling from my mother's text. As I stepped off, my phone kept buzzing, texts from Eric, Angela, Pamela, all celebrating. I ignored them, focusing on the family seating area. My mother's eyes met mine, regret flickering, but no apology. Joshua looked furious, his hands clenched. After the ceremony, we met outside. My mother rushed over, hugging me tightly. We're proud, honey, she said, but her voice was strained. My father nodded, offering a quick, good job. Joshua stayed back, glaring. At the restaurant, a high-end spot I'd reserved for lunch. The tension boiled over. My mother tried small talk, asking about the ceremony. I cut her off. Mom, you texted me I was screwed, right before my name was called. She flinched. I didn't mean it like that, she said. I was worried you'd crash without us. Joshua snorted. You're still playing entrepreneur, Heather. I told everyone your little app was a joke. I turned on him, calm but sharp. You spread those rumors, Joshua. You tried to tank my company. He didn't deny it, just shrugged. You were never cut out for this. Mom knew it too. My mother's face reddened, but she said nothing. I stood, my voice steady. For years, you both bet against me. You pushed Joshua forward, told me tech wasn't for girls. Today I graduated with honors and took HealthNet Bio public at $1 billion. And you still can't admit you were wrong. The table went silent. Nearby diners glanced over, sensing the drama. My mother stammered, Heather, I didn't realize. But her words felt hollow. Joshua scoffed, it won't last. I gathered my things. I'm done proving myself to you, I said, looking at them both. HealthNet Bio is my future, not your approval. I walked out, leaving them stunned, my mother's regret plain but meaningless. I had a company to run. Walking out of that restaurant, I felt a weight lift, but it wasn't triumph. It was clarity. My mother's regret. Joshua's anger, none of it mattered anymore. I slid into the black car Karen had sent, her face beaming as she greeted me. Heather, the market's going wild, she said. We're trading at $60 a share, $1.6 billion valuation. I leaned back, the numbers sinking in. HealthNet Bio wasn't just a company. It was proof I'd built something unstoppable, no matter who doubted me. The next 48 hours were a blur. I barely slept, running on adrenaline through media interviews, investor calls, and team celebrations. CNBC wanted me for a segment. Bloomberg booked a follow-up. Our office buzzed with champagne toasts, Eric and Angela high-fiving coders, Pamela texting congratulations. By the second day's closing bell, our stock stabilized at $60, locking in our $1.6 billion market cap. My stake, just under 15% after funding rounds, was worth over $200 million on paper. But the real weight wasn't the money, it was the responsibility. 150 employees, thousands of shareholders, millions of patients relying on our AI diagnostics, they all depended on me, now. My mother tried calling that first night. I saw her number flash and let it go to voicemail. She left a message, her voice shaky. "Heather, I saw the news. Can we talk?" I deleted it, my finger hovering over her contact before I blocked her number. Joshua didn't reach out, and I didn't expect him to. His admission at the restaurant spreading rumors to sabotage me was the last straw. My father sent a text, "Impressive work." I didn't reply. Their chance to be part of my life had passed. I offered my father and Nicole a tour of HealthNet Bio's office the next day, but I didn't extend the invite to my mother or Joshua. Nicole came wide-eyed at our sleek headquarters monitors flashing with real-time diagnostics. "You built this," she said, hugging me. My father showed up too quiet, nodding at the team. "This is substantial," he said, almost to himself. I thanked him but kept it short. I wasn't seeking his approval anymore. 3 months later, I made a decision that felt right. I took $50 million of my shares and founded the HealthNet Bio Foundation, a scholarship fund for young women in AI and healthcare tech. The first recipient was an 18-year-old from rural Idaho whose parents told her coding wasn't for girls. When I called to tell her she'd won, she broke down. "This changes my whole life," she said. I smiled, remembering Pamela's words, "Lift up the next woman." That moment felt bigger than any stock price. My mother kept trying to reach me, leaving voicemails through my father's phone, even sending an email about potential business opportunities with her grocery chain. I didn't respond. I'd spent years chasing her validation, letting her doubt fuel me. But after that text on graduation day, "You're screwed," I was done. I blocked her everywhere. Joshua too. Cutting them out wasn't easy. It hurt deep down, like losing a piece of myself. But it was freedom. Freedom from their expectations, their dismissal, their belief I'd never be enough. Looking back, the biggest lesson I learned wasn't about building a billion-dollar company or proving my family wrong. It was about choosing myself. I used to crave my mother's approval, thinking if I succeeded enough, she'd see me the way she saw Joshua. But that text sent as I walked across the stage showed me she never would. And that's okay. Real success isn't about winning their praise. It's about building a life you believe in, surrounded by people who lift you up. If your family doubts you, drags you down, don't be afraid to walk away. Protect your dreams, find your own path, and support others on theirs. That's what I did with the foundation, and it's what keeps me going. What did you think of my story? Have you ever had to push past family doubt to chase your goals? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. If this journey inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear they can rise above the noise. Thank you for listening, and remember, the only validation you need is your own.